If we've learnt anything from the death of George Floyd and the recent shooting of sexual offender Jacob Blake, it's that any time a black male is killed by a white policeman, you can guarantee they'll become martyrs. Never mind the things they're guilty of or the horrible crimes they may have committed, if they die at the hands of a white man, they'll immediately become saints. The whole foundation of Black Lives Matter is based on the idea that black people suffer unjustly at the hands of white people, both in terms of police brutality and of institutional racism. Black Lives Matter argue that black people are victims and that society needs to reform in order to prevent that. Ignoring the fact that a black man can become a cop, an astronaut or president of the US, Black Lives Matter still assert that black people are a racially oppressed group. The reality, however, is quite different. The reality is incidences of white on black violence pale when compared to the enormous amount of crimes black people commit against whites. This isn't racism, it's a fact. According to FBI data from 2016, black Americans make up 13% of the population but commit 50% of all murders and 38% of all violent crime. Despite this, criminal thugs killed by police continue to be venerated by big corporations and the Hollywood elite, when white victims of black violence are generally regarded as just another statistic. The most recent example being the story of Cannon Hinnant, a 5-year-old white boy murdered in cold blood outside his home by drug-using felon Darius Sessoms. One neighbour who witnessed the shooting said, "The man just walked up to the little boy who was sitting on his bike, which he does every day. I don't understand. How can you walk up to a little boy, put a gun to his head and just shoot him? How could anyone do that?" Yeah, how could anyone do that? It's almost as if white people have an excuse to start rioting. Like they did for Floyd, good-hearted citizens set up a GoFundMe for the boy's family. It's currently sitting at $800,000. Not the $15 million for George Floyd, but as we all know, children's lives matter less than the lives of criminal thugs. Another recent story is of 17-year-old Veronica Baker, shot dead while sat in her car by Devin Cordell Jones. Police say that Jones's 3 accomplices, Kashara Deans, Nazir Collins and Tyreek Kume Rogers, having helped flee the scene, all face jail on accessory to murder. The media was of course silent on this, as were Black Lives Matter thugs telling us all how oppressed black people are, but it doesn't stop there. August 24th, 2020, 23-year-old Tysheen Walters guns down father and stepdaughter over minor fender bender incident. According to South Carolina Highway Patrol, Wall and Walters were both driving south on Highway 521 when Wall slowed down to turn and was hit by Walters' vehicle. Police confirmed that after a brief altercation, Walters opened fire on 45-year-old Charles Wall and 21-year-old Laura Anderson. "It's such a freak thing," says Laura's mother Kimberly Wall. "I'm having to bury my husband and one of my children. It's devastating. I don't know how I'm going to move forward." Again, no gold casket, no celebrity funeral, no mass riots. April 15th, 2019, 2 men charged with brutal beating of pregnant woman in Massachusetts. Leanne Hindy, who was 5 months pregnant, was walking along when set upon by attackers Tyrese Johnson and David Russell. After crying out she was pregnant, the attackers allegedly said, "I hope he dies, I will kill your kid." According to police, the motive for the attack remains unknown. More recently was the video in which an elderly white man is attacked by a black male holding a brick, while those filming it laugh and cheer. The video was put on the attacker's Instagram page with the hashtag #WhiteLivesDon'tMatter. Again, media silence, but this is just the kind of story that if the races were reversed would be national, if not global news. And guys, there are dozens more stories I could have used here to illustrate the point. Stories which aren't picked up by the media as it doesn't fit the anti-white narrative, but I'm sure you get the idea. Where are the rights for all the white victims of black violence? We're willing to burn down cities and go to anarchy and civil war over dead criminal thugs, but do nothing but sit by idly whilst those same thugs kill innocent children. If a 5-year-old child being executed in broad daylight doesn't justify the same level of outrage that George Floyd's death did, then something is seriously wrong. The truth is, there are no rights for white victims of black violence because white people have become a spiritually sick and broken people. Political correctness has neutered us of any self-identity we once had. All our lives, white people are told that European culture must become diverse, whilst non-European culture should be preserved and undiluted. The end result of this spiritual warfare is a non-existent white group consciousness. Dare to show any racial solidarity as a white person and you're literally Hitler. 24-year-old Jake Heppel, who funded a White Lives Matter banner flown over Burnley Football Stadium, was quickly fired from his job, investigated by police, and received a lifetime ban from the stadium itself. "We were not trying to offend Black Lives Matter," says Heppel, "but it's important to acknowledge that white lives matter also. That's all we were trying to say." Meanwhile, Cambridge academic Priyam Gopal, after tweeting "white lives don't matter," was quickly promoted to full professorship. Yeah, remind me again who the most oppressed racial group is. Black Lives Matter like to play at being victims, but the fact is, no other race is as relentlessly attacked, belittled and subjugated as much as whites. And again, the problem is with white people themselves. Only a spiritually sick and broken people would be so unconcerned with the very obvious psychological and cultural war being waged against them. So what's the solution to this sickness? The solution is simple. White people need to stop feeling guilty for being white. We need to stop buying into the anti-white propaganda perpetuated by the media and refuse to bend the knee for Black Lives Matter, because the reality is black on white violence far exceeds the violence white people commit against blacks. We need to stop believing that we owe something to the black community, when the black community need to take an honest look at themselves and maybe stop being the only ethnicity that venerates and idolises the kind of criminal thug losers that serve as role models to their youth. And maybe just consider that smacking elderly men with bricks, or using nursing home residents as punch bags, or burning down neighbourhoods to solve grievances only serves to perpetuate the thug stereotype that leads to police brutality to begin with. Make no mistake, folks, there is a racial war going on, and it's a war on white people and European culture. Simple as. We either grow some backbone and start fighting back, or continue to believe the absolute bullshit that says a borderless world is a safe and prosperous one.
Fuck you racist white people.
Now guys, as you may have noticed, there's a huge censorship war on conservative speakers right now, which sees any kind of journalistic integrity treated as hate speech. Bottom line, videos like this may get my channel shut down. If that should happen, you can find me on BitChute and my Facebook page, Rise Europa. And if you haven't done so, pick up a copy of my free ebook, The Nofap Success System, which you can find below, which addresses the crisis of masculinity facing the West. Ultimately, all of the subjects raised in this video can be traced back to the emasculation of Western men. We've basically become too weak to fight back. The book explains how that came to be and how you can reverse it, so check it out if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.